Okay, good morning. Today we're going to finish Frankenstein, and this is going to be our final discussion over it. We're talking about chapters 22 through 24. So we have quite a few things to talk about, so stay with me as we go along. Okay, so remember, I want you to comment on this post that I'm creating. We will use your points that you've made in your comments to talk about in class. It's just going to kind of drive our conversations in class. Okay, so we start with chapter 22. Victor has feelings of extreme guilt. Um, he feels responsible, of course, for the death of Clerval. Clerval being our most recent, William, and indirectly Justine. Okay, so he's kind of thinking about all of that. He's internalizing this information. Um, he gets a letter from Elizabeth. His father, actually, let me go back just a little bit. His father comes to get him and kind of rescues him from all of the despair that he was feeling after Clerval's death. He gets a letter from Elizabeth, and she's basically releasing him from his obligation to marry her. She says, I know, that this was our parents' wish. It was my wish, but it doesn't have to be. So if that's not what you're wanting. So she thinks that he is basically pulling away from her and from the family because he feels obligated to marry her when he's in love with someone else. Not the case. So he writes her a letter back. He alludes to the Garden of Eden, the Bible, whenever he says that the apple was already eaten and the angel's arm bared to drive me from all hope. Um, he he really loves Elizabeth, but he's afraid to love her because of the curse from the creature. The creature tells him, remember, that he will be there on his wedding night, and so Victor's trying to spare Elizabeth from seeing the creature basically kill her new husband. He's also, don't you think he's probably dealing with a little bit of fright? Once he sets a wedding date, that's basically also setting a death date. So in Frankenstein's case, not in reality, his wedding date is also his death date. Okay, they go through the wedding, all of the motions of the wedding. Elizabeth is acting strangely. Elizabeth is not acting like herself at all, but because it's on her wedding day, Victor's father just kind of attributes it to being a nervous bride or just basically a bride. So they really don't give much mention to that. But then later on, whenever they are on their way to Villa Lorenza, Lavenza with a V. When they're on their way to their little cottage, basically on the lake, Elizabeth again is starting to show kind of like this retrospective attitude, like she has something on her mind. Um, it could be a number of things. She could be nervous about being a new wife. She could be nervous about what Victor said that he's going to tell her after, she promises to marry him. Or it's something more, something maybe more ominous. We know that Elizabeth has been described as almost kind of otherworldly, like in her kindness and her beauty and grace. And so maybe she has this otherworldly element to her to where she senses whenever evil is coming. We have the sublime power of nature um, in this section. Okay. And then, of course, whenever they get to the villa, we have the cue for the scary music. And that's when it starts storming. Okay, we know something is going to happen. We have that dun 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 moment whenever we know evil is basically on its way. Victor takes all precautions. Remember, he thinks that the creature is coming after him. And so he sends Elizabeth to bed, leaving her unguarded, which is his, fatal flaw. Um, there's a painting called The Nightmare, and it really influenced this image of Elizabeth being dead, strangled, and her arms kind of flailed and spread across the bed. Um, Let me pull this up so you guys can see it. Okay, it Googled The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's not what I want. Okay, so you have this really terrifying image. Let me pull this over. Really terrifying image of this very innocent, white woman on a bed, like her pale, almost ethereal skin sprawled across the bed. You have the evil, like, demon over here watching all of it, and then this image of the ghostly horse. And so Mary Shelley would have been very familiar with this painting, as it is a pretty popular romantic painting, but it kind of depicts that Gothic romance. She was strangled, just like all of the other victims. Victor holds her corpse, just like he did in his earlier dream whenever he was creating the monster. Then we have this moon imagery that silhouettes the evil figure of the creature who's smiling and pointing at the dead Elizabeth. He's excited, he's happy, he's triumphant in his newest murder because he knows that he's basically broken Victor. He's killed everyone that is close to him except for Ernest and his father. But anyways, he's gotten to Elizabeth, and he knows that that will be Victor's breaking point. So Victor realizes that his family, Ernest and his father, are in danger. His father, upon hearing about Elizabeth's demise, falls ill because he's so upset, he's so saddened by what has happened, and so he dies. Ernest is the only one that lives. We never really ever hear anything about him, but he does live, so that, I mean, at least one person made it out, but we never hear anything about him, so it kind of suggests that Victor wasn't that close to him anyways. Okay, um, let's see here. So his father's the next victim. Now Victor has lost everyone. Victor becomes consumed with vengeance and will not rest until the creature is destroyed. Because I love Harry Potter, of course I made this Harry Potter connection with Trelawney's prediction, if you're familiar with Harry Potter. She said, either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. So only one can live. And that's kind of the same path that Victor has taken. Like, he's going to die in pursuit of the creature, but one of them must die. I mean, he's willing to die, I should say. He's willing to die in pursuit of the creature, but he realizes that they can't both be alive. Okay, let's see here. There's an allusion to the Bible on page 177. It's when Jesus was on the cross and he cried out to the Father, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. It's kind of what Victor is saying here. Yes, sorry, how ignorant art thou in thy pride of wisdom? Cease, you know not what it is you say. So he's crying out in agony, and he's saying, hello, people, realize the power of wisdom, and realize that you don't know what you're doing. You do not know the power that you're dealing with. It can consume you and then destroy your life. Okay, Victor calls upon the dark spirits whenever he's in the cemetery, and he asks them to help him pursue and kill the monster. And then, so now he and the monster have switched places. He's become the pursuer. The monster has become the pursued, whereas before it was completely opposite. So he's going to dedicate his life now to destroying the creature. So they carry on with this kind of dark game of hide and go seek. Victor thinks that he's just about to lose the monster, and then he gets, a sign, or he sees where the creature might have been, or the creature leaves him like a little note, or the creature kills an animal and like leaves it there for him to find. The creature is egging him on. He wants Victor to continue pursuing him. That's exactly what he wanted. I mean, he's not getting the love and attention that he wanted, but he's getting attention, right? I mean, any sort of attention at this point is good attention. But let's see here. We're back to the present on page 184. He's back on the ship with Walton. Walton's letters are continued to Mrs. Seville, his sister. Um, Frankenstein warns Walton again about the power of ambition. Let me see here. He says, let me find that exact quote here. Um, he says, when younger, I believed myself destined for some great enterprise. My feelings are profound, but I possessed a coolness of judgment that fitted me for illustrious achievements. The sentiment of the worth of my nature supported me when others would have been oppressed, for I deemed it criminal to throw away in useless grief those talents which might be useful to my fellow creatures. So he knew that he was going above and beyond, that his wisdom far exceeded that of a normal man. And so he pursued those passions. And then he says, and like the archangel who aspired to omnipotence, I am chained in an eternal hell. He relates himself now he, Victor, is relating himself to Paradise Lost, and specifically the fall of Satan. Because Milton in Paradise Lost maintains that all Satan wanted was power, and that led to his demise. So we have this connection between the creature and Satan, and now Frankenstein and Satan. So Frankenstein warns him against that. Walton's men come to him because the ship is now stuck in ice, and it is thought that death is imminent. They think that they're going to die immediately. And so they said, if the ice breaks up and we get a chance to get out of here, we're going home. And Walton concedes to that. Now he is upset. He doesn't want to, but he thinks to himself, like, how can my mad schemes lead to their demise? And he can't, that doesn't, it doesn't prove itself worthwhile in his mind. He can't sacrifice all of these men in order to pursue his own goals. He says on page 190, the die is cast. It's an allusion to Caesar whenever he says, and I'm going to mispronounce this, but he says illa acta est. It's Latin for the die is cast. Like, my destiny is already proven. Fate has been decided. I must follow it. And so he says the die is cast. I've consented to return if we are not destroyed. Thus are my hopes blasted by cowardice and indecision. I come back ignorant and disappointed. It requires more philosophy than I possess to bear this injustice with patience. So Walton, although he makes the decision to come back, he's conflicted internally about this decision. On page 192, we have Shelley's seemingly contradicting tone kind of reflecting through this quote whenever she says, it's in the words of Frankenstein. It's his last words, actually. He says, seek happiness and tranquility and avoid ambition, even if it be only the apparently innocent one of distinguishing yourself in science and discoveries. Yet, why do I say this? I have myself been blasted in these hopes, yet another may succeed. So, Frankenstein says, don't be consumed by power and ambition, especially whenever it comes to the sciences. Be careful. Don't play God. But then he kind of almost retracts and says, you know what? I say this, but I may have just failed. You might do much better in your endeavors than me. Who am I to say that I know what's going to happen with you? So we have Shelley's kind of confliction there. While you should pursue knowledge and power and all of these kinds of things and be driven by your passions, sometimes it can lead to demise. Sometimes maybe not. Sometimes people may handle it. Sometimes people may have better success with it. But Frankenstein most definitely did not. Okay, so Frankenstein passes away. And then he asks Walton to destroy the creature for him. He says, it's something that I would hope that you do. I don't want you to, basically dedicate your life to it, but I do want him to be destroyed before he inflicts any sort of harm on other people. The creature, he comes to the ship and he's on the ship, and then Walton meets him whenever he is basically a mourning over Victor's body. He's over the coffin and he's weeping, and Walton speaks to him, and the creature gives us his version of like his murderous acts. He didn't enjoy killing the innocent. He didn't enjoy killing Clerval. He was not his conscience um, did not go untainted after these murders, and we learn this through his own little narrative here. Is it reliable? We don't know, but I mean, we would hope that the creature is being sincere in these last few moments with his creator. Um, he realizes that in destroying everything that Victor loves, he's destroyed Victor himself, which is something that he did not want to do. And so excuse me, the creature um, decides that he is going to build himself a funeral pyre, basically like a burning uh, pile of wood, and he's going to burn himself alive on the highest mountain because now his entire life is worthless. So we kind of have that last moment of sympathy for the character or for the creature. My goodness, I don't know why I'm not wanting to say creature today. Um, so on 197, it ends with him leaving the ship, and then he was borne away by the waves and lost in darkness and distance. And so we assume that he carries out his plan. We assume that Walton makes it safely back to England, and all is tied up in a nice little bow. Make sure to comment below. Sorry if it sounded rushed. We have 5 minutes until the bell rings, so excuse me. Thanks. Have a great day, guys.